Thank you. Test, test. So, I will rush through this presentation a little bit quickly, but all of what I show, I don't want to show in detail, but also to give you an inspiration for questions. Please hold your questions, remember them until the end of the talk, and if you don't manage to ask after the talk, ask me afterwards in the sessions. I will be here until the pizza. So we all have a PhD, and you know, during your PhD, you learn how to do research. You're supervised, you write manuscripts, you publish manuscripts, then you become a postdoc. You learn how to be a little bit more critical, more independent, you publish more, and then when you're doing this publishing business, you end up contacting people like me, the editor, and you get faced with maybe tough decisions. And that's especially true because I'm from a portfolio, the Nature portfolio, which is known to be highly selective. We are professional editors, and we are fully editorially independent, and we have this high expectations of our manuscripts because we want to publish the best of the best, right? That's our mission statement. We also want to cater to a broad audience, and this also limits how much we can publish and how many manuscripts we can take on. I am from Nature Communications, which is roughly in the middle of the Nature pyramid, where you have Nature at the very top, publishing the most important advances. Then you have the Nature research journals, which are more specific to the audience that they're catering to. Nature Communications in the middle, as I said, and then we are going down, losing the Nature brand name to communications journals, and we end at the bottom with scientific reports. But nonetheless, all Nature branded journals are edited completely in-house, means that we don't have an editorial board. All decisions are taken by researchers that have disconnected from the scientific community in the sense that they're no longer active researchers. And this allows them, and allows me, to do decisions without having to fear repercussions for my own scientific career. I don't have to write grants. I don't have to publish myself. I don't have to be connected politically with other researchers. I can look at your manuscript with open eyes and be, let's say, honest about what we feel is important and less important. And also, we are many. So at Nature Communications, we are 150 professional editors, and the reason is that because every editor has their own remit. My remit is physical chemistry and nanomaterials, which is also a broad remit. Nonetheless, as you see, we are multidisciplinary, catering to all communities. And because we are multidisciplinary, because of this multidisciplinary approach, we can easily ask for feedback from colleagues. If I get a manuscript on my table that is a mixture of different topics, I can ask colleagues to give feedback and then arrive at a balanced and fair decision. Nonetheless, I'm here to talk a little bit about my transition from postdoc to editor, and I started off with back then a diploma in chemistry that's equivalent to the bachelor-master system. Then I did my PhD in physical chemistry on macromolecules at interfaces. Afterwards, when I look at it, it was a quite dry topic, but I did it experimentally. And then I started my first postdoc where I went to the beautiful Dresden, transitioning more to nanoscience, nanoparticles, nanometal, and of noble metals that have plasmonic properties as optical functional materials. And then I applied for a big funding as a fellow, an individual fellow, as a Marie Curie Skłodowska fellow in Spain, because everybody told me if you want to continue the academic career ladder, you need to go abroad, experience a different group, experience a different research lifestyle, and also challenge yourself in being the primary figure that drives your research to be a principal investigator. So I was happy to get the funding to spend 2 years in Spain. During all of this active research time, I published, I would say, quite sufficient to be accepted in the scientific community as a researcher. But I also had a lot of fun in Spain, and this is also what a postdoc is for. Experience a different place, a different language, a different community of people, different lifestyle. So I was in the beautiful San Sebastián in Spain at the French border, It was a beautiful time. I also spent a lot of time in the lab. So while other people on the weekend went to the beach, I stayed in the lab because I wanted to push my career. I was trying to understand ways to track the chemical communication between bacteria, so the chemical signals they are sharing, using surface-enhanced Raman spectroscopy as a tool. I was successful. But nonetheless, even though I learned a lot about colloidal building blocks, light-matter interactions, self-assembled nanostructures, optical sensors, then there was COVID. Yeah? And I had a strong hiatus where I tried my best to transition back to Germany because we were starting a family. There were many reasons to be back in Germany, also to look for positions in Germany and to be available for interviews. During this time that is indicated by this dashed line, I applied for 20 junior professorships, and I was mildly successful getting 2 offers from these 20, so a 10% success rate is not too shabby. Nonetheless, during the same time, during the COVID time, I applied for a job as an editor. I got the position and I started to work as an editor. And now I had the hard decision if I continue being an editor and disconnected, not being an active researcher, or going back to research, starting my own team, applying for more funding, building the group, publishing more, getting back into the politics. I decided to stay an editor for several reasons, because I like the work and because it gives me a lot of freedom and flexibility also to be there for my young family. So I became an associate editor, and I'm working in a team that is dealing with material science and different varieties of chemistry. I enjoy this multidisciplinary team a lot, and we are also spread across the globe. So while I'm based in Berlin, a couple of my colleagues are in London or in New York, and we are communicating on a regular basis. On our manuscripts, for instance, if I'm interested in a feedback from a theoretician, I would ask my dear friend Manel. But also there's a lot of interaction between the editors in communities. We are agile, we're meeting on a regular basis, discussing science, not also manuscripts, but also larger developments. So what I want to point out, when you become an editor, you are the middleman. You're no longer the creator of content, you are not the evaluator of content, you're in the middle, you're selecting content to be evaluated, and you try your best to be impartial, to be a middleman, to avoid nepotism and favoritism, which we see all too often in journals that are editorially board-based. So it's a lot of communication, and that is key. You have to enjoy communicating between different communities. On average, I have 25 active peer reviews, and if you roughly calculate 3 to 4 reviewers, this is 100 people that can at any time contact you with questions. So you have to be quite flexible and also mentally prepared to always delve into new topics within your remit. You all know the pathway from submission to acceptance, but I want to highlight the deeds of an editor. This is here, doing an assessment of your manuscript after it has been submitted and doing a pre-selection. So roughly 73% of all manuscripts get rejected at my desk. That's very tough because it's not easy to say no, it's much easier to say yes. And when a manuscript gets sent into peer review in this feedback loop, which we trust that improves the quality of the manuscript and selects only the best of the best, you have the responsibility to select the right referees. Because if you select the wrong referees, the feedback is of no use to make a good decision. So selecting the referees can be tough. Do you prefer older, more senior people, more younger people? Do you look at more technical or conceptual advances? How many reviewers do you need? So that's a hard decision, and every manuscript is different. At the same time, there's a second challenge: you have to be fast. We all want to publish as much as possible in the shortest time available, so you have to act quick, take quick decisions, which means in our world, a first decision is 8 days, a decision after peer review is maybe 40 days, and the whole process from submission to acceptance is roughly half a year. It can be significantly longer depending on how many rounds of reviews you have to supervise. And there can be challenges when authors or reviewers are unhappy with your decisions. So then they appeal. And there are different appeals. There are kind appeals that write you an email and explain, there has been a misunderstanding, let me clarify. And other appeals where hey, we have been publishing in Science and Nature before, you have no clue, you're not representing the field, who are you? Well, you have to deal with this on an emotional level, on a professional level. So you have to avoid getting into conflicts a lot. And also, there's another challenge. Where do you put your priorities? When a phone manufacturer wants to sell a phone to you, they try to look at the small details and explain, hey, we've improved the vibrational motor. And for that reason, this new model is the perfect tool that you need to buy for the next 2-3 years. It's similar with a paper. We don't reinvent science. We look at small details which we can tweak, getting new mechanistic insight, getting new advances, and you have to explain that this is significant. So I look at your manuscript and I try to find the small detail that is significant and then build and develop it. Over the last roughly 2 years, I published quite a lot. This is my roughly 10% of articles that I looked at and that finally made it into production. As you see, that's shiny, colorful pictures, but each picture is connected in my head with a long story of maybe half a year where I tried my best to push the manuscript towards acceptance. And there's also an editing aspect of being an editor. So the true editing means when we approach the manuscript being acceptance, I try my best to make the title more descriptive and reflect the key advance, to do some line editing to improve the clarity of your writing, to ensure the comprehension, to make the figures better, and to improve the content, how it is distributed, remove some fuzzy words like new novel first, extreme, highly, ultra, all of these subjective language. And I try to make the figures clearer. So we all see that this color scale makes more sense to our human eyes than this color scale. So I try my best to avoid these misleading impressions. Overall, you do a lot of reading at all levels. You take a lot of decisions, and this drives you. Your main activities are reading, literature research, taking decisions, finding referees, promoting content on different social media channels, traveling, meetings, communication. And what you need to do this is first and foremost a broad interest in science beyond your core expertise in your current postdoc, and also some skills like time management, being organized, email etiquette, quick thinking, frustration tolerance is quite important. And also there's a bonus skill involved. If you have an efficient way to fight decision fatigue, like a sport, I don't know, doing push-ups in between writing sessions, this is very important to just keep pushing, because you get fatigue when you're always doing the same, reading a manuscript, evaluating it, writing down your decisions. So that's what I wanted to bring to you in this short 10 minutes. If you have questions, I'm open.